Welcome to the world of science fiction, where imagination turns real and every story takes you beyond the stars. Enjoy the ride. The moon hung low that night, washing the forest in silver. Julian had lived on the edge of these woods for years, alone with his tools, his silence, and the quiet hum of the creek that ran behind his home. But that night, the water didn't sound right. It was softer, like someone was moving through it. He grabbed his flashlight, stepping out barefoot onto the damp earth. The air was colder than usual, humming with something electric, something alive. He pushed through the trees until he reached the creek, and then he froze. A figure knelt in the water, pale skin glowing faintly blue beneath the moonlight, hair like liquid silver spilling down her back. Julian blinked hard, certain he was dreaming. But then she turned her head slowly, and he saw her face. For a heartbeat, the world just stopped. Her eyes shimmered like galaxies, endless and ancient. Not human, not earthly. And yet there was fear in them, pure, trembling fear. Julian's light caught her, and she flinched back, covering her face. He immediately lowered it. "Hey, wait, I'm not going to hurt you." Her breathing hitched. Water rippled around her trembling hands. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice delicate, echoing like two tones layered together. "They're searching." "Who's searching?" Julian asked, but she didn't answer. She looked toward the sky, eyes darting, like she could see something he couldn't. Then the light changed. A faint blue flicker flashed between the clouds, high, silent, and moving fast. Julian looked up. "What the hell is that?" Her voice broke. "They found me." She stepped out of the creek, water dripping from her skin that now glowed brighter, the light pulsing with her heartbeat. Julian took a step back, half in awe, half in disbelief. I'm not supposed to exist here," she whispered. "Please don't let them see me." Julian hesitated only a moment before motioning toward his cabin. "Come with me." She stared at him, unsure. Then a sound echoed through the trees, a sharp hum, mechanical, closing in. That was enough. She ran to him, light flickering as she moved. Inside the cabin, Julian locked the door, heart pounding. The hum outside grew louder for a moment, then faded. Silence fell again. Emery stood in the dim light, dripping onto the old wooden floor. The glow around her faded until she looked almost human. Almost. Julian couldn't look away. "What are you?" he breathed. Emery looked up, eyes still trembling. "A mistake," she said softly. "And now that you've seen me, you're part of it too." Julian swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling in. "Then I guess," he said quietly, "we better figure out how to fix it." For the first time, a flicker of something human, almost like a smile, crossed her face. But outside, deep in the woods, the silence broke again. A distant vibration, metallic, steady, hunting. Julian turned toward the window. The sky pulsed blue once more. And in that moment he realized, whatever Emery was running from had already found them. Julian didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the faint blue shimmer that leaked from beneath the door. Emery was in the other room, silent, unmoving, but her glow pulsed gently, like the rhythm of another world breathing inside his home. Outside, the forest whispered. Every creak of the floorboards felt louder than thunder. He could still hear that hum from earlier, echoing faintly in his head. Mechanical, deliberate, searching. Julian finally stood, walking to the kitchen doorway. Emery sat near the window, wrapped in one of his flannel shirts, her silver hair dull in the dim light. She stared out into the trees like she could see through them. "You didn't sleep either," he said softly. "I can't," she whispered. "They're close." Julian frowned. "You keep saying they. Who are they?" Emery turned to face him, and for the first time he saw the exhaustion in her eyes, eyes that held galaxies and grief all at once. "Hunters. My kind made them, to destroy anything that escapes the core worlds. I wasn't supposed to come here." Julian leaned against the counter. "And why did you?" Her gaze dropped to her hands, faint light tracing the veins beneath her skin. "Because I wanted to live," she said, "not the way they wanted me to. They created us to serve, not to feel. The words hit Julian harder than he expected. He wasn't sure why, but something in her tone, that quiet ache, mirrored his own life too closely. He poured 2 mugs of coffee out of habit, then realized she might not even drink it. But to his surprise, Emery took one, cupped it in both hands and stared into the rising steam as though she could read the heat. "You humans," she murmured. "You drink warmth to calm your fear." "We were never given that choice." Julian studied her carefully. "You talk like you've been watching us a long time." Her faint smile disappeared. "We all do. Your world glows too brightly, too alive. It's forbidden to even look at it." He was about to ask another question when something outside snapped. A single twig, then another. The hum returned, faint but real this time. Julian set his mug down, heart slamming. "They're here." Emery's glow flickered. She nodded once. "Hide the light." She pressed her palms together, and the glow around her skin dimmed until she looked almost human again. The air grew thick, vibrating with static. Julian peeked through the window but saw nothing, just the black outline of trees swaying in the wind. Then out of nowhere, 3 small blue dots hovered in the dark, like eyes scanning through fog. Julian's throat tightened. "What is that?" "Scouts," Emery whispered. "Machines built from starlight. If they detect my frequency, they'll call the others." She stood, stepping close to him. "If they enter, you can't let them touch you." Julian nodded, but before he could respond, a burst of light cut through the window, sharp and white. The entire room glowed for an instant. Julian grabbed Emery's hand and ducked behind the couch. A low hum filled the air again, this time vibrating through the walls. Julian's heartbeat raced with it, pulse for pulse. Then, silence. He looked up, breath held. The light outside flickered once, then faded away. Emery's hand trembled in his. She didn't look at him. Her gaze was fixed on the window. "They're scanning the soil," she said quietly. "Tracking the energy I left when I fell." Julian frowned. "Then they'll come back." "Yes," she whispered. "Tonight was only the beginning." He ran a hand through his hair. "So what do we do now?" For a long moment she didn't answer. Then she looked at him with that same galaxy-deep stare. "You shouldn't help me, Julian. If they find you with me, you'll vanish too." He smirked faintly. "Then I guess I'll just vanish slower than you." That made her pause. For the first time since she arrived, something human flickered in her expression. Like hope, faint but real. "You don't understand what they do to those who shelter us." "I don't care," Julian said simply. "You're not going back out there." Outside, thunder rolled. Not natural thunder, but something heavier, like metal breaking the sound barrier. Emery's light flickered again, fear flashing across her face. Julian stepped to the window, squinting into the distance. A faint beam of blue light shot through the clouds and hit the forest floor miles away. "They've landed," Emery whispered. Julian turned to her. "Then we don't have much time." She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "If I stay, they'll burn this place to the ground. You have to let me go." Julian shook his head. "I'm not letting you run alone." The sound outside grew louder, deep vibrations shaking dust from the ceiling. Emery grabbed his wrist, her glow now steady, brighter. "You don't know what's coming." He looked at her hand, gripping his arm, then into her glowing eyes. "Then show me," he said. "Whatever this is, whatever they are, show me." For a heartbeat, she hesitated. Then she reached up, pressing 2 glowing fingers to his temple. The room disappeared. In an instant, Julian's mind was flooded with light. Cities floating in black space, oceans made of stars, beings of pure energy enslaved to a single command. Hunt the ones who flee, and in the center of it all, Emery, running through fire and shadow, her light dimming as the universe itself turned against her. Julian gasped, some stumbling back. His knees hit the floor. Emery caught him gently before he fell completely. "Now you see," she whispered. Outside, a sound like a siren echoed through the forest, long, low, unearthly. Emery's eyes lifted toward the window. "They've found me." The siren didn't fade. It grew sharper, rising and falling in strange, layered tones, echoing through the forest like something alive. The cabin windows trembled. Julian could feel the vibration in his ribs. Emery's glow pulsed faintly, reacting to the sound. "They're aligning," she whispered. "The signal means they've locked onto my frequency." Julian grabbed the rifle hanging near the door. Instinct more than logic. "If they come through that tree line, you can't fight them," she said quickly, stepping closer. "They're not made of what you understand as matter. Bullets will only anger them." Julian's hand tightened on the rifle. "Then what do you suggest?" Her eyes lifted to the ceiling as if she could see beyond it, beyond the clouds themselves. "There's a field beneath this sky, a network your world doesn't know exists. If I can reach its current, I can mask us temporarily." Julian blinked. "You mean hide?" "Yes, but I'll need power, energy that belongs to this planet." Julian frowned, confused. "What kind of energy?" She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes faintly sad. "Yours." Before he could speak, Emery raised her hand, hesitating inches from his chest. "It won't harm you," she whispered. "Just trust me." Julian exhaled slowly. "Do it." The moment her palm touched him, the air changed. A faint hum rose from the floorboards, rippling through the walls. Light flared around them, soft, blue-white, and Julian felt his heartbeat sync with hers. For a moment, everything around him dissolved into threads of light, swirling like a storm frozen mid-motion. Then it was over. The glow faded. The siren stopped. The forest was silent again. Julian staggered slightly. "What did you just—" "I used your bioelectric rhythm to distort my own," Emery said, voice weak. "Now to them, we don't exist." Julian looked at her, breath heavy. Her glow was fading fast. "You're burning out." "I can manage," she said softly, leaning against the wall, but her skin had gone almost translucent, like glass catching the last light of sunset. Julian set the rifle down and caught her before she fell. "You need to rest." She smiled faintly, eyes half closed. "Rest doesn't stop what's coming." He helped her to the couch. The quiet in the cabin was too heavy. It wasn't peace, it was waiting. Outside, the wind had stopped, and even the creek seemed to hold its breath. Julian sat across from her. "You said they were made to destroy what escapes." "Why you?" Emery looked toward the window, voice distant. "Because I broke the chain. We were created from light bonded with memory, designed to serve the architects forever. But I remembered too much." "Too much of what?" She met his eyes, tears glinting faintly blue. "Of freedom, of what it meant before they took it away." Julian's throat tightened. "So you ran?" "Yes, through the void between worlds, through systems that burn anything they can't control, until I fell here." She looked down, trembling. "But even light leaves a trail?" Julian stood and paced, his mind racing. There must be a way to cut that trail, something they didn't account for. Emery looked at him with a fragile smile. "You think like a builder." He stopped. "I was one. Before all this." He gestured around the cabin. "Built this place with my own hands." Her eyes softened. "Then maybe that's why the universe brought me to you." Julian laughed quietly, shaking his head. "Universe or accident, you're here now. And I'm not letting them take you." For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then she said, barely audible, "If you stay near me, they'll kill you." Julian turned toward her. "If I let you go, I'll never forgive myself." The silence stretched. Emery lowered her gaze, light flickering faintly. "Your species always says that. Never forgive. You think love and guilt are the same." Julian hesitated. "And what do you think they are?" She looked up slowly. "Energy. One feeds life, the other drains it. The architects feed on guilt. That's why they'll never stop." Before Julian could respond, the ground trembled. Softly at first, then stronger. The air filled with static again, faint blue motes drifting through the cracks in the walls, like dust made of light. Emery's head snapped toward the door. "They're tracing residual currents. The distortion isn't holding." Julian grabbed his flashlight and moved to the window. Outside, streaks of blue shimmered between the trees. Slow, deliberate movements, like predators circling prey. "They're scanning again," she said. "But this time, They're not alone. Julian's voice dropped. What do you mean? Her expression darkened. The hunters don't come without a conduit. They've sent something stronger, something alive. The light outside grew brighter, blue beams cutting through fog. Then for just an instant, Julian saw a shadow moving between the trees. It was tall, too tall. Its outline shimmered, shifting shape like liquid metal trying to hold form. Emery's voice broke. They sent a seeker. Julian turned back to her. What does it do? It absorbs. It feeds on energy sources to locate what it's hunting. She looked at him, panic flickering in her eyes. It'll sense the connection between us. Julian's heart slammed. Then we break it. She shook her head. If I sever it, my energy field collapses. I'll die before dawn. Julian froze. The humming outside grew deeper, closer. He looked at her, every instinct screaming at him to protect her, even when he didn't understand how. Then we run, he said. Emery stared at him, as if weighing whether to argue. Then she stood, her light stabilizing again. There's a valley north of here. If we can reach the river bend, I can use the current to disrupt their signal. Julian grabbed his jacket, shoving open the back door. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of ozone and something burning far away. Go, he said. I'll follow. Emery stepped outside first, her feet barely touching the earth, glow faint but visible beneath the trees. Julian followed, flashlight off, trusting only the moonlight and her flicker ahead. Behind them, the forest began to hum again, the sound of machines waking, and above them, through the broken clouds, the stars blinked one by one, turning blue. The night stretched forever. Julian and Emery ran without speaking, their breath ghosting through the cold air. Behind them, the forest pulsed faintly blue, not from moonlight, but from them, the hunters. The sound that followed wasn't footsteps, but vibrations in the ground, as if the earth itself recoiled from what chased them. Keep low, Emery whispered, her voice trembling as she moved. Her glow flickered weakly, blending with the moonlight. If the seeker senses motion tied to heat, we'll lose the distortion. Julian nodded, eyes scanning the terrain ahead. The woods began to thin, opening toward a valley choked with mist. He could hear water somewhere below, the river she'd mentioned. They descended the slope in silence. Julian's boots slipped on wet moss, his pulse pounding like thunder in his ears. Every few seconds he looked back, half expecting to see those blue streaks cutting through the dark. Nothing yet, just the wind, just the sound of running water growing louder. Finally, they reached the riverbank, a long, winding stretch of shallow current glowing faintly from minerals beneath its surface. Emery dropped to her knees, hands hovering over the water. This current feeds through the deep crust, she said quickly. If I merge with it, I can distort the entire region's signal for a few hours. Julian crouched beside her. You'll what? Merge with it? Her eyes flicked to him. My energy bonds to natural flows. It's the only thing your world has that can hide me. Julian frowned. What happens to you when you do that? I fade, she whispered, but not forever. I'll reform when the surge passes. He looked at her, jaw tightening. How long? 6 hours. Julian's pulse kicked harder. And if they find you before then? They'll erase the current itself, Emery said, and everything touching it. Julian's hand clenched. That includes me. She didn't answer. Instead, she placed both palms flat on the river's surface. The water began to glow brighter, rippling outward in concentric circles. The mist thickened, twisting like smoke. A deep hum filled the valley, low and resonant. Not mechanical this time, but alive. Julian took a step back, eyes wide. Emery, she looked up, her expression soft despite the chaos around them. You helped me when you didn't have to. I won't forget that. Her voice broke slightly on the last word. Then before he could speak, the light engulfed her completely. The glow expanded, forming a bright silhouette that shimmered and cracked, like glass melting into water. Julian shielded his eyes. The hum turned to a high-pitched frequency that rattled his bones. Then suddenly, silence. Where Emery had been, there was now only the river, glowing faintly, whispering with strange light beneath the surface. Julian dropped to his knees, chest heaving, The world felt too still, too heavy. He wanted to call her name, but the sound caught in his throat. Then a tremor. The ground beneath him shifted, subtle but real. Across the valley, a streak of blue light cut through the trees, followed by another and another. The seeker had arrived. Julian's heart slammed against his ribs. The light approached fast, weaving like liquid flame. He crawled to the nearest boulder and ducked behind it, gripping the cold rock until his hands ached. The seeker stopped at the edge of the river. Its form flickered, half solid, half vapor, tall and skeletal, its face a prism of shifting light. It tilted its head, scanning the current. Julian held his breath. Every instinct screamed to run, but one movement, one breath could expose him. The seeker extended a tendril of blue energy into the water. The current flashed white, and a violent pulse rippled through the ground. Trees cracked and split. The boulder Julian hid behind vibrated, nearly knocking him off balance. Then, a voice, not human, not clear, but it came from inside his head. "You protect what does not belong." Julian flinched, eyes wide. The seeker's faceless head turned slightly, as if sensing his reaction. "You are noise in the code." A flaw. He clenched his teeth, refusing to move. Sweat ran down his face. The seeker's tendril sank deeper into the river, its body glowing brighter. The air warped around it, distorting sound and shape. The mist twisted violently, and through it, for just an instant, Julian saw something. Emery. Her shape flickered within the current, trapped, fading in and out like a reflection underwater. She was fighting the pull. Julian's breath hitched. He wanted to shout, to go to her, but the seeker loomed inches from where her form appeared. Then, her voice echoed faintly in his mind. "Julian, don't move. Don't break the field." He pressed his hands to his ears, trembling. "I can't just... If you come closer, it'll sense you." The seeker's head tilted again. Its light dimmed for a moment, confused, maybe distracted by the energy surging beneath it. Julian watched, every nerve alive. Then the river flared. A wave of light burst upward, slamming into the seeker's chest. The creature staggered backward, its shape distorting. Emery's silhouette surged within the current, light exploding from her, like lightning through glass. Julian shielded his face. The air cracked, and the seeker screamed. A sound not made for human ears. It turned, retreating into the trees, leaving streaks of vapor behind. The valley fell silent again. Julian dropped to the ground, gasping. "Emery!" The river glowed softly, calming after the storm. A moment later, her faint voice reached him, echoing through the water. "It's done. For now." He knelt by the bank, eyes searching the surface. "You're still here?" "Yes, but I'm weak. The field held, but they'll send more." Julian clenched his fists. "Then I'll keep them away." "Julian!" Her voice trembled like the current. "If I fade, follow the river north. There's something there. A gate between your world and mine." He frowned. "A gate? A fracture where light and matter overlap. I can cross back if it's still stable." Julian's eyes hardened. "Then that's where we go." "Not yet," she whispered. "You can't reach it alone." Her voice began to fade like mist dispersing in the dawn. "Rest, Julian. When the sky changes, I'll return." The water dimmed. Julian stared at it for a long time, jaw tight, eyes burning. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain and smoke. He looked toward the horizon. Above the tree line, blue sparks still flickered, spreading wider, closer. Whatever this war was, it wasn't over. He stood, tightening his jacket, his reflection shimmering faintly in the glowing water. "I'm not leaving you," he said quietly, "no matter what sky I have to walk under." And somewhere beneath that water, faint and distant, Emery's light pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Dawn crept in slow, pale, and uncertain. The valley lay quiet except for the soft gurgle of the river. No more blue light, no humming sky. But Julian knew that silence didn't mean safety. It never did. He sat by the bank, eyes hollow from a night without sleep. Every few seconds, his gaze fell to the water, waiting for the faintest shimmer of blue. Nothing. His reflection looked back at him. Tired, human, fragile. "Come on, Emery," he muttered. "You said when the sky changes." As if in answer, a low tremor passed through the ground. The water rippled, and for a moment, faint threads of light danced across its surface. He leaned forward. "Emery?" The ripples formed shapes, symbols, maybe language, then faded before he could make sense of them. Julian clenched his jaw. He wasn't losing her, not after everything. He reached for his pack, pulling out the one thing he'd kept from his cabin, a small handheld transceiver he used to scan weather frequencies. The static hissed softly. "Let's see if your world listens to this," he whispered. He adjusted the dial, sweeping through white noise, searching for the hum he'd come to know too well, the sound of their machines. But instead, something else came through, a faint rhythmic tone, pulsing like a heartbeat. Julian froze. The sound was hers. He followed it north, the way she'd told him. The terrain grew rougher, jagged cliffs rising around a narrow path where sunlight barely reached. Each step felt heavier, the air buzzing faintly as though the world itself were electric. Hours passed. Then he saw it. At the center of the ravine stood a break in the air, a faint distortion like heat on metal. It wasn't visible at first glance, but when the wind shifted, light bent unnaturally around it. The gate. Julian approached slowly, the radio still pulsing in his hand. The closer he got, the stronger the rhythm grew. "Emery, is that you?" The distortion shimmered, spreading wider, and her voice came, soft, layered, echoing from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You shouldn't have come alone." Julian exhaled a shaky laugh. "You know I wasn't going to sit around waiting." Her form began to appear, faint light rising from the air itself, taking shape like a ghost made of sunrise. She looked weaker, less defined, but her eyes still burned with that same otherworldly calm. The Seeker's signal reached the upper atmosphere. More will descend. The gate won't hold long. "Then we go now," Julian said, stepping closer. She shook her head. "You can't cross it. The molecular strain would destroy you." Julian stared at the distortion, its edges flickering like torn glass. "There has to be a way." "Only one," she said softly. "But it's not what you think." He frowned. "Then tell me." Emery stepped forward, her light barely touching his chest. "You can't travel through the gate, Julian, but you can anchor it." Julian blinked. "Anchor? If the gate destabilizes, it collapses forever. But if someone binds their energy field to it, it can remain open long enough for me to return home." Julian's stomach dropped. "You're saying I stay here and die while you escape?" Her voice softened. "No, I'm saying you'd become part of the bridge. Energy suspended between both worlds, neither gone nor alive." He looked away, jaw tightening. "You think that's better?" Emery's expression flickered. Pain, guilt, something deeper. "I didn't come here to end you." Julian met her gaze. "Then don't ask me to live without you." For a moment, the silence between them felt infinite. The gate hummed louder, its light shifting from blue to silver. Emery reached up, brushing her fingers across his face. The touch was cool, almost weightless. "You feel like sunlight," she whispered, "even when the world breaks." He swallowed hard. "And you feel like home." The distortion flared, and the air vibrated violently. Emery stepped back, eyes wide. "They've found the trace." The gates collapsing faster than I thought. Julian turned toward the ridge. Above them, clouds twisted into spirals of blue fire, the same pattern he'd seen in the sky before each attack. "Then do it. Use me." Emery shook her head. "Julian?" "Don't argue," he said, voice rough. "You said it yourself. Energy bonds through connection. We already have that." Tears shimmered in her eyes, glowing brighter than her fading light. "If I accept your energy, there's no coming back for you." Julian took her hand and placed it over his heart. "Then at least one of us makes it home." The gate shrieked, a sound that felt more like pressure than noise. The air pulled at them, dragging dust and light into its spinning core. Emery looked at him one last time, her voice breaking. You shouldn't love what can't stay. Julian smiled faintly. Then I guess I never learned how not to. She closed her eyes and pressed her forehead against his. The world went white. Light surged between them, brilliant and endless. The ground vanished. Julian's body dissolved into warmth and electricity. For a moment he felt everything, every memory, every heartbeat, every piece of her. Then came stillness. When the light faded, Emery stood alone before the gate. The distortion had stabilized, shimmering steady, held open by invisible force. She turned, her face a mix of sorrow and awe. Julian? The wind whispered, carrying faint static. A voice drifted through it, not loud but clear enough to reach her. You made it. Her breath caught. You're still here? Guess I'm part of the bridge now. Tears slipped down her cheeks, glowing like starlight. Then I'll find a way to bring you back. Just make it worth it, he whispered. Make running mean something. She smiled through the tears. It already does. The gate pulsed once, brighter, stronger. Emery looked up, her body dissolving into threads of light as she stepped through. The distortion sealed behind her, leaving only silence and the faint hum of air where Julian had stood. Above the ravine, the sky finally cleared, and for a fleeting instant, the first thing Emery felt after crossing the gate was stillness. Not silence, something deeper, the kind of stillness that made the stars seem frozen. She stood in a field of pale light. Above her stretched a sky without edges, filled with slow-moving orbs like planets made of glass. The air vibrated faintly, humming in rhythm with her heartbeat. She looked around, dazed. Julian? Only the hum replied, soft, endless, alive. She closed her eyes. That pulse, it felt like him. Every breath she took carried echoes of his warmth, the human scent of rain and earth. He wasn't gone, not completely. You made it, his voice whispered through the current, faint but present, like a signal between worlds. Emery turned, searching the empty horizon. Julian, where are you? Here, he said gently. Everywhere the gate breathes. A tremor rippled through the air. The gate was alive, anchored by his essence, by the human who had given up everything to keep it open. Emery's chest tightened. She reached out, fingers brushing invisible particles of light. You shouldn't have done that. You told me once. Your world was dying, he said softly. Now maybe it has a chance. Her tears shimmered midair, dissolving into motes of blue light. And what about you? You don't belong between worlds. Your body, your mind. I'm still me, he interrupted, voice warm and steady. Just less flesh, more frequency. She smiled sadly through her tears, always finding a way to make the impossible sound simple. He laughed quietly, a sound that vibrated through the whole plane. Guess I learned from the best. Emery walked forward, each step echoing across the glassy ground. Ahead, the horizon began to ripple, forming shapes. Tall towers, endless halls of light. Her world. But it wasn't how she remembered. The spires that once shimmered silver now flickered weakly, dimmed by age and abandonment. Massive arcs hung broken in the air, fragments of cities lost to time. Emery whispered, It's dying faster than I feared. Can you fix it? Julian asked. She took a deep breath. Maybe. With the gate stable, the core can be reignited, but it requires pure energy, constant, balanced. Her voice faltered. Julian, you're the balance. Silence. Then softly. If keeping it alive means I never come back, it's still worth it. She shook her head violently. No, you saved my world once already. I won't let you fade to keep it breathing. Emery, his tone deepened, calm but resolute. If you shut the gate, everything we fought for dies. I'd rather exist as a memory than know you're standing in ashes. Her knees weakened. She dropped to the glowing floor, palms trembling. You think I can just live while you dissolve into light? You won't be alone, he said. Every time the stars flicker, every breath you take, I'll be there. The words cracked something inside her. She reached forward as if she could hold the air where his voice lingered. "You human fool," she whispered, voice shaking. "You alien miracle," he replied softly. For a while neither spoke. The hum of the gate pulsed gently, keeping time with their hearts across the distance. Then Emery rose, turning toward the great tower in the distance. The core. It pulsed faintly, the last heartbeat of a dying civilization. "Stay with me," she said quietly. "Always." She lifted both hands, channeling the energy that still burned inside her. The air trembled. The tower responded, flickering brighter with every surge. Light rippled outward, filling the void, feeding on Julian's anchor, his human spark. The ground shook. Beams of light climbed through the ruins, threading into the sky like veins of life. "It's working," Julian whispered, voice faint now, breaking apart with the static of his fading form. "Hold on," Emery cried, pushing harder, even as the edges of her body began to fray into light. "Julian, don't fade! You're doing great." His voice was weaker now, barely there, but she felt his warmth spreading through everything, through the gate, through the core, through the stars themselves. Then came the sound, a deep, beautiful hum that shook the heavens. The gate expanded, stabilizing. The core blazed to life, painting the horizon in white fire. Emery screamed, a sound of both triumph and grief, as the energy flooded her world, and with it, his essence. When the light finally dimmed, she fell to her knees. The stars above her burned brighter than they had in centuries. Her world was reborn, but the hum was gone. No more heartbeat, no more voice, just silence. She looked up at the sky, eyes wet. "Julian?" Nothing. Then faintly a shimmer drifted down, a fragment of energy that flickered once and then shaped itself into words, glowing briefly before dissolving. "If love is energy, then we never end." Emery smiled weakly. "You stubborn human." She reached up, letting the last of his light touch her palm. "Then let's make your forever count." Above her, the sky rippled, no longer broken, alive and endless. The gate stood firm behind her, humming like a living thing. And though Julian's body was gone, his voice lingered faintly in the vibration of the air, a whisper too soft for most ears, but always there when she listened close enough. "Emery." She turned toward the light, eyes steady. "I hear you." And as she stepped toward the heart of her restored world, the stars bent just slightly, as if the universe itself was smiling. The stars over Emery's world glowed differently now. They weren't just distant lights. They breathed. Each flicker, each pulse felt alive, threaded with warmth that reminded her of him. Days passed, or maybe weeks. Time moved strangely here. The core was stable. The air no longer shimmered with decay. Rivers of blue light flowed through the ground, bringing life back to the planet's veins. But the silence between the pulses haunted her. Julian's voice, the hum that once filled her mind, had faded to an echo. Still, she felt him in everything. The wind that bent toward her when she walked, the warmth that touched her shoulder when she stopped to rest. She never said his name out loud anymore. It hurt too much. One morning she stood atop a crystal ridge, looking down at the rebuilt valley, silver roots of her world glowing softly beneath an endless violet sky. Her reflection shimmered in the glass-like surface of a pool. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw him there, the curve of his smile, the warmth in his eyes. But when she blinked, it was gone. Her voice cracked. "You promised I wouldn't be alone." The wind stirred, carrying a faint vibration, so subtle she almost missed it. A pulse, then another. Her heart skipped. She closed her eyes. "Julian?" Nothing. And yet, beneath her feet, the ground throbbed, a rhythm too familiar to mistake. She dropped to her knees, pressing her palms against the glowing soil. "Julian, I can feel you." "Took you long enough," his voice murmured, faint but unmistakably his. Warm, teasing, human. Her breath caught. "You're still here?" "Told you I'd stick around. Bridges don't just disappear." She laughed, a sound caught between disbelief and relief. "You idiot. You scared me." Wouldn't be the first time. The sound of him filled her, like sunlight bleeding into a cold room. I thought you'd dissolved completely. I almost did, he said, but the energy stabilized. I'm not exactly solid, not exactly gone either. Think of me as the light between the stars. She smiled through tears. Trust a human to turn into poetry. Trust an alien to understand it. The world around her shimmered faintly, as if reacting to their connection. Threads of light rose from the ground, swirling around her like ribbons. Emery, he said softly, I can't stay forever. The more your world rebuilds, the weaker my echo becomes. She froze. No, please. I just got you back. Hey, he said gently, you didn't lose me. You carried me this far. You'll carry me the rest of the way. She clenched her fists. It's not enough. It's everything, he whispered. Her knees gave out. The light around her flickered. You don't get it, Julian. I don't want a world that's alive if you're not in it. There was silence. Then, you said something once. His voice came, softer than wind. You told me love isn't possession. It's permission. Permission to keep going, even when everything else stops. Her tears fell onto the glowing ground, each drop turning into tiny bursts of light. You remember that? It's the only thing keeping me here. The horizon began to change. The gate, now faint and translucent, flickered in the distance. Its hum had shifted. The bridge was stabilizing on her side and collapsing on his. She turned toward it, heart racing. If it closes, I'll never hear you again. Maybe not, he said softly, but you'll feel me. Every sunrise, every shimmer in the air, that'll be me. She shook her head. It's not the same. No, Julian said, but it's real. Lightning rippled through the sky. The gate roared, a deep, haunting sound. Emery ran toward it, wind tearing through her hair, her glowing dress streaking through the mist. Julian, don't go! You can't stop it, he said, voice breaking with static. The universe balances itself. The stronger your world gets, the more it pulls me apart. She stumbled to the edge of the gate. Then let it fall. I'll find another way. Emery, his voice trembled now, fading, fragments breaking apart like sand in the wind. Don't you dare leave me like this, she cried, reaching toward the fading shimmer. Please. The light around her trembled. Then for one last moment, it coalesced into shape. Faint, translucent, his figure standing inches away. His hand reached for hers. She stepped forward, breath shuddering. Their fingers brushed, warm, then cold. Julian smiled softly. You saved a world, Emery. You gave me forever. She sobbed, shaking her head. Not like this. He leaned in, whispering one last time. Love me in the stars. And then he was gone. The gate shattered in silence, a burst of white radiance fading into the air. Emery stood motionless, the wind swirling around her. The world below was alive, rivers flowing, light singing, but her chest felt hollow. She fell to her knees, pressing her hands to the earth where his energy once flowed. You'll never fade, she whispered. Not from me. For a long time, there was nothing. Then, just as the last tears fell, the sky above shifted. The stars aligned, not randomly, but deliberately, shaping themselves into a faint outline. A face, his face. Emery gasped, her lips parting in awe. The constellation pulsed once, glowing brighter than the rest, and in the hush that followed, a familiar whisper brushed her ear. See? I told you I'd find a way, her eyes glistened. You always do. She stood, wiping her tears, gazing up at the heavens. Then shine for me, Julian. Shine so the whole universe remembers what love looks like. The stars flared brighter, answering her. And as the wind carried her words into the endless sky, the world beneath her, reborn and breathing, echoed with a hum that was half mechanical, half human. The gate was gone, but the bridge lived on, in light, in memory, in the quiet rhythm of two souls that refused to vanish. Because some loves don't end. They just change form, and when the stars remembered, they remembered them both.